Hi, welcome to Salve Salento. I'm Jennifer, and today I wanted to talk to you in depth on how you can apply for Italian citizenship. And the most important part of the process is to find out if you qualify in the beginning. So before you start looking at documents and ordering things, you really need to know, am I qualified to apply for Italian citizenship? The first step in that is going online and getting a membership to Ancestry.com. They offer trial memberships, and most all of the records for naturalization are in Ancestry. So if you know the name, you need to know the name of your great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, or grandfather, depending on how close it is in your lineage. Then you need to look on Ancestry, and you can find a lot of documents on there. They will always, if they have marriage records and birth records, they will have the names of the parents on there. So then you just can follow the line up and to see which of your relatives was actually born in Italy. So once you get that naturalization document, that you can find it, verify, you'll notice a lot of things will be familiar on that, that you might recognize. Maybe your family had spoken about some place that your relative was from, and then you can actually see that on the naturalization record. Hopefully that record has a town, a city, the name of a commune that you can actually use when you need to get the Italian birth record, because that is the most difficult to get of all of the documents. The documents that you get from the United States are relatively organized for the most part, and a lot easier to get than things from Italy, because in Italy there were a lot of wars, fires, floods, things like that, and most of those old records were kept in churches and in the local office. They go down to the town, and they would usually, when there was a birth in the town, they would take the whole family down and to announce the birth. They didn't have hospitals back then. People gave birth in homes, and they usually didn't go down for a few days. So the Italian birth record might be off a few days from the original birth record or the date of birth that because it took them a while to transcribe these things also. So first, let's focus on the naturalization record. So you go on Ancestry, you know the name of your great-great-grandfather that came over. You can actually search on Ellis Island records, and they will show you exactly what ship they were on. So if you know what age they may have been when they traveled over, you can search those records to get some more information. If your puzzle isn't complete, you really need to fill in some things, and that's helpful because when you look at the manifest from Ellis Island, I know I'm jumping around, but this is really important. So you look at that Ellis Island manifest. On that manifest, it may be written where they ended up, what city they ended up in, what street they lived on, and who lived there with them. And that'll all help you piece together this puzzle that you need to find to see if you qualify. Because you don't want to hire an attorney off the bat and have them do all of this research, and then they charge you, and then they say you're not eligible. So it doesn't take too much time, and you'll find that the pieces really come together quickly if you know what you're looking for. So go on Ancestry and find that naturalization record, and this is the complete key. If this isn't correct, you don't qualify for citizenship. And this is so important because people say, well, but my great-grandfather was born in Italy. If your direct ascendant was not born before the time of naturalization for your relative, you do not qualify for citizenship. This video that I'm doing for you now is for male lineage only. So if you're looking at female lineage, meaning a great-grandmother, a great-great-grandmother, or a grandmother, you cannot use, if they were born before 1947, which it would be the key that they were, right? Then they would be young and it wouldn't matter. So If they were born before 1947 and they're a woman, you need to have a court case, and there's a whole other line of things you would need an attorney. So I would start with an attorney right now. You can do the search on Ancestry and look at the manifest on Ellis Island, and look on that naturalization record to see if your ascendant was born already. So let's assume, yes, you get that naturalization record and you say, oh, great, my grandfather was already born by the time my great-grandfather naturalized. Makes sense. He'll be listed, and they listed all of their family members on that sheet. Some of them have been blocked out, but because when you look at it on Ancestry, you will see the names of all of the children, and you might recognize, oh, that was my grandfather's brother, or those were my uncles, or my aunts and uncles, whatever. You might start recognizing names, addresses, people that are listed in the bottom of the naturalization record. And there's two parts to that. There's the petition and then the actual record. So when they actually naturalized, the legal date that they naturalized is the date that matters. So if they applied, but then your great-grandfather was born, so on the application you might not see your great-grandfather's name, but on the actual legal document, that the naturalization record that was filed in the court, and that date is usually a few years after the application. So most of the time they may have applied. For example, Dennis's family they applied in 1919, but it wasn't final until 1921. That leaves a few years of a window for more people to have been born, right? So once you look on that final record with that date, that's the latest date, that will be the official record, that is the naturalization date, and on that paper will be listed all of his children, his or her children. So say we get to this point and you're like, great, there's my grandfather, he's listed on there, perfect. So now with that information, you need to find the Italian birth record. So before you start to get any other documents, this is a step that I should have done in the beginning that I didn't do. And this is really important because without this document, you cannot get Italian citizenship. That is it. You can't say, well, he said he was from here. No, they need to find a hard copy. So using that information that is on your application for naturalization and the actual naturalization court-ordered certificate, because there'll be two, and they're usually on pages of this book, so they would put one on the opposite page of the actual document, or they would staple it to the top, so then you'll get two copies of this document that has all of this information on it. Read that very carefully, because a lot of times in the first petition, they will write the actual town that they were from. And then when they go back to do the actual court case, they might just say Naples or Rome or wherever, and that's not really where they were from. Most of the time that they left from Naples, they weren't from Naples. Their family wasn't from Naples. We were very, very fortunate with Genesis' family that they wrote the actual town, the comune, the province where they were from, the whole thing. So we knew exactly where to look if we couldn't get that Italian birth record from somebody online. There weren't many places in this town that births would have been registered. So you would know, well, he was born exactly here. Well, they kept birth records in two places. They kept the municipal, or they kept them at the church. And you could always find the record in one of those two places, and they would legalize that document, and that would be considered a legal birth record in Italy. So this is when your sleuth is going to come out. You have to search for these documents. Now, let's say it says Naples, as my grandfather's did. So when we looked, we said, oh, we knew he wasn't from Naples. But then when I contacted people in Italy to be able to find these birth records for me. They said it was much too vague, and their electronic search didn't turn up his birth record. So I was dead in the water, but I had already spent a lot of time and money purchasing documents, having them legalized, having them apostilled, and that was a lengthy process that I could have avoided if I would have searched for the Italian birth record in the beginning. So if you're having trouble finding an Italian birth record, you can private message me, and I can talk to you about a way that we can try to see if there's somebody that can find that record for you. So let's say, great, you know exactly where he's from, or your family has a stack of records, which we love. If you can find somebody that kept all of these documents in your family, that they were handed down, a lot of times they weren't. They didn't have paper documents, but you might have hard copies of letters and things that may have an address on it, all helpful. So yes, you find out where they're from. Okay, great. You can get the Italian birth record. Now your work can begin, because now you have the Italian birth record and you're legally allowed to apply for citizenship in Italy. So I know that a lot of people who are watching this video now are distressed because the law now is different in the United States consulates for applying for citizenship. They've just extended it this year for another year. So instead of it being within 2 years they need to give you citizenship, now they have up to 3. And if you're including that time period where you're waiting for your appointment at the consulate, plus the time that it takes for documents, a lot of people that are retired or thinking of retiring may not get citizenship for 6 years, 8 years, and that's a long time. So what I'm here to tell you today is you don't have to apply for citizenship in the United States, and it's not costly or expensive to do it in Italy. So if you have yes, you found the naturalization certificate, you're good. Yes, you found the Italian birth record, you're good. Now you need to start ordering all of your relevant documents in the United States. So this means that if you're applying in Italy, you only really need the male lineage. So you don't need your great-grandmother's birth record. You don't need your grandmother's birth record. You may need the marriage certificate and the birth record and death record of all of the men that are in the line. So, and if someone's still alive, that's great. You don't have to get the death record for them. The attorney will actually put all of that together for you when you are building your application. So now you can hire an Italian attorney. You will need to get the documents yourself. I know that some agencies in Italy may be able to get documents in the U.S. A lot of them are very, very expensive. And I know that a few years ago, when we first got to Italy, somebody that we met said that their application had gone up to $10,000. And when we had gotten ours, it wasn't that much. So apparently the people that are doing this work, they're getting overloaded, and they have to do a lot more work that they're realizing to get these documents and things for people who are applying for citizenship, and they know that everybody wants it, so they can make it a lot more expensive. It's not that expensive in Italy, so you can shop around a little bit and look for citizenship attorneys in Italy. And if you're getting the documents yourself, one, it's easier because you're related and you have a legal right to, and two, you don't have to wait online for everybody that's in the United States. You don't have to wait for an appointment at that consulate. You can get an appointment at a court with your attorney in Italy and get that citizenship push through a lot faster. And I think that the timeline is 6 months. So the longest, don't get excited, because you still have to get the documents from the United States first, right? So what I would do now is start going on these documents that you've been finding and searching those places for these birth documents. And there are 2 places. If your relatives came through New York, right? That's important. New York City has an e-vital system for very old documents, and Vital Check for documents that are more recent. So you can go on Vital Check, and if you're legally allowed to obtain these documents for citizenship, they will give you the copies of these. You might run into a little snag with a document or 2, but we've had, for our purposes, we didn't have any problem getting these documents, and our relatives haven't had problems getting these documents. You just have to write a little letter and explain why you need these documents and why you're entitled, and they will give them to you. They will release them to you legally. So now, here comes the fun part. So, okay, you're searched, you found your lineage online, you have your list. Start compiling a list of birth, marriage, death records for each relative that you have in your line, and then start checking off which documents you're getting. So yes, you'll go on to these New York, if they're from New York City. Most of them did come through New York City, so they'll have most of those documents. If they came through somewhere else, or you need documents from somewhere else, you would just find that information and search in the corresponding state or town or city, wherever they were from, so that you can get those documents. And Vital Check has everything online pretty much. They've been uploaded so that you can order them and they'll send them to you. Very important when you're ordering these documents, order 2 copies. Have one that you send off for apostille when you get them and that you get all of your documents together. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. And keep 1 copy just in case. So let's just say your stuff gets lost in the mail. You don't want to have to wait 8 months again to get them from New York City or from Pennsylvania or wherever you're getting your documents from. Order 2, keep 1 in the folder, send 1 away. Now, when you order these documents, it's very important to double check your information to make sure it's correct, because if it's not, they'll just keep sending it back. If you have to do a physical written order, Vital Check you won't have to. They'll tell you right away if they have the record. You'll know. They'll say, yes, we got your order. And another thing too, if you're on Ancestry and you're searching documents, and when you have your membership there, or you get a trial membership, if you find a document, write the document number down. You can use that document number to order the documents, and it'll be a lot faster and easier for the people who are processing these orders. If they have the document number, they'll know exactly when the date that it happened, and the document number. They'll just go through their files and send it right out to you. So order 2 copies, and make sure that you order it in long form, the legalized form, with a letter of exemplification if it's available. So I'll explain what this means. There are a lot of very old documents that from the turn of the century that they microfiched and they saved a lot later on when they were indexing all of these documents. So when they get a copy, it wouldn't be a legal copy that, for say your birth record, you can just go online and the issuing agency has your birth record on file and they just type up a new one and send you a birth record. These are very, very old, so they're photocopies. And what you need to have with these documents is to make sure that they give you the entire document instead of a cut-off version. And the long form will usually include, usually for a death record, if it includes the cause of death and all of that, and there's other information in there. So include that. and also a letter of exemplification, and make sure it says a legal copy for either citizenship or legal reasons. And they'll give you the option to order that type of document when you're placing your order. That letter of exemplification ends up being an additional seal that gets put on, has the number of the record, the issuing agency, it's stamped, it's signed, and they're all stapled together, these documents. So you do not separate anything that's stapled, that comes stapled. Collect these documents and put them in a safe place. Obviously, separate one copy from the other, and then hold them in a safe place until you're ready to send them off for the next step in your the documents being legalized. Because even if you have that letter of exemplification, that document is not officially legal until you get an apostille. And that is what the Italian government will recognize, is that apostille that gets stamped on the top. And that one gets attached to all of those documents, and you have to send them to the state that issued it. So make sure that you keep them separated when it's time to send these things off. If it's New York, you'll be sending it to Albany. If it's Florida, you'll be sending it to Tallahassee, to the state of Florida. And you'll send these documents to that corresponding agency. They'll prepare these apostilles. They're not very expensive. I think we paid $10 a document to get apostille. You don't send both that you ordered. Keep one, because you don't know if you don't want them both to get lost if they don't get lost at the same time. So send them separately. But I wouldn't send them off yet. If they come back good, good, and you're all good, that's fine. The only time that I would be concerned is if you were sending those documents to Italy, and you send off all of your apostille documents to Italy and they get lost somehow. You have a whole brand new set here that you say, you know what, next time I'm going to send it different, and I'm going to send it, with courier, whatever, and make sure I'm going to bring it myself, right? I'm going to go over and take a vacation and bring them in my pocket, and so that nobody can lose it. You'll still have a copy that you can still send off to get apostilled. It doesn't take long, just a couple weeks, and then you'll get all of these documents back, and now you'll have all of these legalized copies in your hand. So obviously, copies of the birth, marriage, death. If you do want to get the birth records of the women that are connected in the lineage, you can, for your own records. Or if there's a question of something in the records and they're like, well, this doesn't seem clear, then you can have a birth record of the mother of the child that is in the lineage. So you can get those. They're not super expensive to get. And while you're getting all these documents, an extra $20 or $30, it doesn't matter. You're saving a lot of money by doing this work yourself. So it's negligible almost at this point. But so those documents you need, right? Birth, marriage, death of everyone that's in your line. You also need the NARA and the UCSIS. So the NARA is that legal document, that's the naturalization record, and the UCSIS is the copies of that document. I would order those right away. They do take a little while. They get thousands and thousands of requests for these documents. It may take a couple of months to get, but your other documents are going to take a couple of months to get also. So I would try, if you can, to order all of these necessary documents at the same time. So I know this is a lot to process and there are a lot of steps, but when you start to do it, it really is pretty easy once you know what you're looking for. And you can get all of these documents yourself, and then you can compile all of this, give it to your attorney, and then they will set up a court date for you in Italy. And that happens pretty fast. So those documents when you get the NARA documents and the USCIS documents, what you need to do is keep all of them in all of the original envelopes and everything that they send you. So do not throw out the envelope and put it away. The other ones that you get from New York and those documents, you don't have to keep those envelopes because you have the legal, the letter of exemplification, and those documents are stapled together and they're legal. The NARA and USCIS, it's very, very important to keep the envelopes that they were mailed in, because you will need to submit that with your application so that they know that that document got mailed from them. And there's no other way for them to do that. You don't send those off for apostille. I believe, I'll double check that for you. I don't think so. I think that the only thing that you need to send off is the birth record, birth, marriage, and death records to make sure that they are legal. So those documents, try to get everything all at once if you can, and send everything out. Order them online. If you're stuck with a document and you're not sure, or you get a little bit overwhelmed and you say, you know what, I'm really trying to do this on my own, but I can't navigate this system, personal message me on through the YouTube link, and I can try to see if I can help you out somehow. I do some consultations for people that are doing visas or citizenship, so we can work something out where I can see if I can help you find those documents a little bit easier, or advise you a little bit, since we've been through it so many times with us and some families. So I'm going to end this video here now because this is a lot to take in. I will have part 2 tomorrow on once you get all of those documents back and getting an Italian attorney and scheduling that appointment with them to get your citizenship in Italy, because like I said, it's a lot faster. 2 years usually for an appointment in the United States. If you travel to Italy to get your citizenship, they have to issue it within 6 months of the filing. And while you're there waiting, you can stay in Italy legally. So you don't have to leave while your citizenship application is being processed. You need to remain there legally for 45 days, and then you can leave. But once that process is finished, you can either stay if you want to, you're allowed to stay, or you can go. So I'll talk more about that tomorrow on the next video, part 2. And I hope that this information was helpful. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments and I'll be answering them. And I'm so glad that I can help you with this. If you have any questions, I will answer them, try to answer them as promptly as I can. So take care and ciao. I'll see you tomorrow.